Thank you, and welcome to the Spotlight on Media to Africa, live from Washington, D.C. Today, we will be looking at the candidacy of Maurice Kamto. As the 2025 presidential elections approaches, it remains a question as to whose political reforms appeals to the public and who has the potential to shape Cameroon's future. And as I indicated earlier, today we will be looking at the candidacy of Professor Maurice Kamto, the candidate of MROC Party, and his chances at the upcoming 2025 presidential elections in Cameroon. Maurice Kamto, born February 1954, is a law professor, barrister, and president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, in French, the MROC. Kamto spent 9 months in detention after contesting the 2018 poll, when the authorities accused the former law professor of insurrection following protests by his supporters who claimed that the poll had been rigged in favor of the incumbent Paul Biya. Kamto's eligibility to run again for the presidency in 2025 is now in question because Cameroonian law demands that any political party must already have elected representatives in place if its leader wishes to run for president. At the last presidential election, Kamto's ROM party had one senator, but going into this election, it has no elected officials. Alternatively, some are positing that Kamto could run as an independent candidate, for which he would need 300 signatures from designated personalities from across the country's 10 regions. Today, I have with me a distinguished group of panelists with political inclinations and professional know-how about the situation in Cameroon. So here in the studio with me, I have Michelle Wamba, a political consultant and a businessman here in the DMV. Welcome to the program, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Echo. It's always my pleasure to be in this studio to take lunch with you.
And thank you. Over remotely, we would be having some very brilliant minds, legal luminaries from the UK, Dr. Nelson Agbo. Welcome, Doc.
Good evening, Brado, and thank you for having me. In an era where our social media space is infested with um, deviant debates, debates of this nature always intrigue me. So whenever I'm called upon to drop a word, I'm always happy to join. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you. And sitting right close to him, I think is next door neighbor is Dr. Patrick Ayok. He's a development and leadership expert and a university lecturer. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you, Mr. Echu, and thank you to Africa 2 Media. Thank you for providing the platform for us to engage, especially in relation to topical issues in politics in the Cameroons.
So we're going to get to it. Gentlemen, please check your volumes so that our audience could hear you clearly. Kenneth is on the road and is definitely going to subsequently join us in this very important conversation as to the stakes that are in Cameroon. I would just get into it. Cameroonian law demands that any political party must already have elected representatives in place if its leader wishes to run for president. Yet, Kamto insists there is no legal obstacle stopping his bid for the presidency. Dr. Agbo, I'm going to start with you. Is Kamto implying he will seek to undermine the law as a constitutional lawyer, there is a loophole that he seeks to exploit.
Right. This is quite a good starting point. To begin with, I would say no. He is not thinking of undermining the law at any point. On the contrary, as a constitutionalist that Maurice Kamto is, I only think that he knows what he is doing and he is just applying the law the way it is. If you would permit me, I would just go into some key points that would edify us a bit more. Electoral candidacy for the presidential elections in Cameroon is governed by what I would say two laws. The first one is the constitution of the country, which is the GRONOM, and the second one is the electoral code of of ELECA, Cameroon electoral law. Now, if I want to tell your viewers under what grounds Maurice Kamto's candidacy is 100% eligible, legally speaking, I will start by evoking Article 121 of the Electoral Code of Cameroon, which states as follows in its 121 sub 1: a candidate can be invested by a political party or as an independent candidate if he or she acquires 300 signatures from the entire country, that is 30 signatures per region, and these signatures should come from elected members of the regions, council elected members, uh, first class, second class, and third class chiefs. Article 121 sub 2 says a candidate can be invested by a non-represented party not elected, but the candidate must also fulfill the conditions mentioned in Article 121 sub 1 that I just mentioned. Our constitution in its Article 15, I will talk about the sub 2 and sub 3, which is relevant to our conversation today. Article 15 sub 2 says a member of parliament represents an entire nation once elected and not his political party. It goes ahead on its sub 3 to say any imposed mandate is null and void. What this means is that any attempt to force someone into a position of power, whether in government or another capacity, is not recognized according to our law. Now, to buttress that, I'll quote you two examples. Number one happened in 2014, where the mayor of Nkongsamba 3, a certain Mrs. Esame, was dismissed from the CPDM party while she was already mayor, but remained mayor until 2020, based on Article 15 of the Constitution, which I just mentioned. So despite not being a CPDM member since she was dismissed, she remained mayor of the council until her mandate was over. The second example is very eminent and is still very fresh. It is a case of 6 November 2024, where the mayor of Bafoussam 1 resigned from the SDF to join the CPDM ruling party. But he has since remained the mayor of Bafoussam based on Article 15 of the Constitution. Now, that article I've just read, Article 15, has just elaborated to us that MPs represent the entire nation as well as councillors. Now, Maurice Kamto's candidacy is well on track because he still has all the avenues to place that candidacy, either as an independent candidate with the 300 signatures, or as a political party representing his party, because recently some members of the SDF in Bafoussam, one of the councils in Bafoussam, decamped, resigned from the SDF, and joined Maurice Kamto's party. Now, what that means is the same scenario that happened in 2014 and 2024, which I referenced above. If the Cameroonian government respects the law, then Maurice Kamto's candidacy suffers no problem at all. However, given the semi-authoritarian nature of our country, there is a high chance that the government may want to violate the constitution and the electoral code, which they have already done in terms of publication of lists, to put aside Maurice Kamto's candidacy. Because as far as I know, he is one of the front runners of the upcoming election. So, based on all of this, in my first statement, I think that Maurice Kamto's candidacy has every legitimacy.
Thank you. Michelle, listening to our brother from the UK, Dr. Nelson, you would come across with the impression that, yes, this could just be considered as a political maneuver by the regime to try to block the candidate they fear most because he embodies real change. Do you think that Kamto is eligible to run as of now?
Une fois de plus, merci beaucoup pour la parole, mais permets-moi, n'est-ce pas, de saluer mes copanélistes. C'est vrai, c'est la première fois que nous nous rencontrons. Je vous dis bonsoir de par vos positions où vous êtes. Et puis, je ne vais pas manquer de saluer tous ceux dont j'ai convié de nous suivre aujourd'hui. Je pense par exemple au président du quartier d'Amour à Paris, de Pawa, le diamantaire, à mon fils Michel Wamba, second, qui a eu une brillante note en cette fin d'année. Pour revenir à la question, je pense que si on parle de Maurice Kamto, une personnalité, vous allez comprendre que comme tous les Camerounais, chacun peut plus ou moins être candidat à l'élection présidentielle. Mais cependant, on a deux voies. La première voie, c'est se faire représenter par un parti politique. Est-ce que le parti politique de M. Kamto remplit les conditions? Moi, je dis non. La deuxième façon, c'est d'avoir les signatures dans les 10 régions du Cameroun, en l'occurrence 300 signatures. Est-ce que cela est possible? Je dis, compte tenu de l'obésité des conseillers municipaux du RDPC, la probabilité est très faible. Maintenant, il lui reste une troisième position. C'est celui d'aller emprunter un parti qui a déjà des élus. Comme Cabral Libi l'a fait la dernière fois, comme Akeremouna a procédé avec le parti Univers. Ce sont les seules voix qui s'offrent à M. Maurice Kamto en tant qu'individu, en tant que Camerounais. Donc, moi je trouve que l'agitation qui s'est faite à ce moment autour de sa personne a plutôt d'autres objectifs. Parce que quand on regarde l'organisation de son parti MRC, on a plus tendance à croire que c'est un regroupement ethnofasciste avec 3 branches distinctes. La première branche est le politico-terroriste MRC. La deuxième branche est la basse qui agressent, cassent les ambassades partout à l'étranger. La troisième branche, c'est son alliance avec l'Amazonie qui, quelquefois, récolte les fonds que la base envoie pour assassiner dans le nozo. Donc, moi personnellement, je pense que Maurice Kamto est allé plusieurs fois solliciter l'appui international dans le but de mettre la guerre civile au Cameroun. On sait aussi que lors de son passage, lors du meeting de Paris, il était entouré par les services secrets français. D'autres enquêtes ont démontré clairement que M. Maurice Kamto avait déjà envoyé...
Michel,
Je réponds à la question.
We are still at his eligibility.
Mais j'ai dit que... J'ai donné...
Getting into the campaign. Let's proceed. Those questions are going to come.
Okay.
His meeting in Paris and his backers are going to come. There are always political coalitions during elections.
Okay.
What we are asking now is this whatever maneuvers are going on now with the recommendation by Cameroonian law that you need 300 signatures or you must have elected representative either in parliament or local councils for you to be eligible to run. As of now, the question was, is Maurice Kamto eligible to run?
Oui, j'ai dit qu'il y a trois possibilités qui s'offrent à lui. Deux sont qu'ils lui rendent impossible et il lui reste la troisième possibilité, c'est-à-dire aller prendre un parti Yango et se présenter simplement. Quand il ne le fait pas, on sent tout de suite que d'autres objectifs sont derrière. C'est ce qui se passe au Cameroun en ce moment et tout le monde le sait. Vous ne pouvez pas nous dire qu'un professeur de droit international, un constitutionnaliste, ignore que quand on n'a pas des élus, on peut aspirer à être candidat à une élection présidentielle, puisque le jour où il décide qu'il ne part pas aux élections, il précise clairement qu'il est conscient que le fait de ne pas aller aux élections va lui donner et va l'empêcher d'être prochainement candidat à l'élection présidentielle. S'il le fait, et si aujourd'hui il dit qu'il est candidat, vous-même vous savez pourquoi il le fait. Ce ne sont plus des objectifs de paix qu'il vise au Cameroun. Tout le monde sait que c'est un projet terroriste pour le Cameroun qui se prépare. Voilà.
Thank you, Michel. Nelson, before I let you to maybe respond to that, I would like to go to Dr. Patrick. I think, Patrick, while in Paris last month, Kamto promised he would protect Biya and his family if he wins the October's elections. He said, and I quote, "When you do me the great of honor of entrusting me with the reins, you can be sure that nothing will happen to Mr. Biya and his family. Nothing. I guarantee it. I have no time for hatred. I only have time to build Cameroon with you," he told thousands of Cameroonians living in the diaspora who had turned up to his rally on May the 31st. My question to you is, Kamto saying that once he assumes the supreme magistracy, he automatically becomes the law, to the point where he can confidently guarantee that nothing will happen to Biya and his family. Basically, whatever atrocities Biya and his junta have committed during the past 43 years will be given a clean slate. And I can hear Michel referencing Kamto's association with Ambazonians, which he had not provided any credible evidence for that. What do you think Kamto means by really trying to say that he can guarantee that Biya would not be either prosecuted or anything could happen to him and his family?
For that, and thank you to viewers in the diaspora and in the Cameroon.
Can you increase your volume for us, please?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
And
thank
move
you
back a
very
little bit.
much.
Good,
So
okay.
what we are trying to do, I think Kamto might have a problem of trying to persuade Cameroonians to believe that he is the right person in position. Of course, they understand the fear of the regime. But the fear of the regime is not only Biya. Biya is nothing. Biya doesn't know what is happening. Biya doesn't care about what happens. Biya has created a hegemony, a ruthless system, and it is basically in charge. The core question is, what is Kamto going to do after Biya? Because Biya might not be there. The CPDM is there to stay, but Biya, I think he has outlived his mandate. So that's the main problem is not Biya. So it does therefore tells you that Kamto in particular maybe does not have a political platform, a serious political platform or policy platform that he's going to strive on. He should focus on policy and institutional issues rather than one person. That is why we keep on saying CPDM is not Paul Biya, and so the CPDM people should stop focusing on Paul Biya only. They should tell Cameroonians what they will do and how they will bring the change, real change to Cameroon. So when we talk about the front runners, you need to look at, does Kamto has the media influence to be a front runner? When you look at the media, yes, he makes anecdotal shows, but is it consistent? Does he has that financial background? Yeah, he has a few people, the bars, the family case, and so on and so forth, and different people in the English, in the French region that maybe can put in some money. But does he have that financial background to push the election through? Does he have that ability to actually bring momentum into the whole thing? He's just starting. He just went down recently. Does he have the momentum to do that? About his electability, now, does he appeal to so many voters, a wide range of voters? That has to do with electability. Let him focus on this first before talking, because except you want to build the same Cameroon that Biya is building, as you actually said. Because if he wants to build a different Cameroon, then it should be based on institution, not only saving individuals that have caused so much havoc on the people, on the country. So does he have the electability? That is something that you need to look at, because if you have the electability, it means that his ideology must appeal to his voter and is supposed to create a balance between his ideology and the convictions of the people that he wants to serve. Does he have that? You look at his political ideology, and if Marcel can talk about Ambazonian supporting Kamto, how do you support somebody that has never visited you to even sympathize with you? When did Kamto visit Southern Cameroons? When was the last time did he visit Southern Cameroons to see the kind of torture, torment, and sufferings that people are going through, to see how people are extrajudicially killed? When did he do that? So when you talk about Kamto, Kamto is protecting the Cameroonian system, the one Cameroonianness, and not the Ambazonians, because he talks about Cameroon being united. Ambazonians want their own state, want an independent Ambazonia. So Kamto for that is not part of the Ambazonian ideology. And he does not, in his conviction,
hold on to that thought.
bring
Hold on to that thought. I think that's just to dismiss Michel's trying to associate Kamto with the Ambazonian cause. But Nelson, coming back to you, I find that a little bit preposterous that Professor Kamto could confidently, at this juncture, begin to say he can guarantee or completely absolve Biya of any things that he had done, the atrocities, if he is given the reins in a 2D. Would that not just signify that he also might turn out to be a replica of what we have in a 2D? Even before getting into that unity palace, he's already saying that he can guarantee that, irrespective of the law, as a constitutional lawyer and you as a legal luminary, it makes make it make sense to those of us who do not really understand the complexities with the law. How would an ordinary citizen begin to assure somebody who has been in office for 43 years? Definitely, there are a lot of atrocities that have been committed in that country by his regime. Is he saying that if he can guarantee Bia's safety and his family, what about Bia's acolytes? Is he going to do the same? Because you cannot leave the Alibaba himself and then go after the petty thieves. Is that really something that you think is okay for him to say?
Okay, thank you for giving me the floor again. Before I go to your question per se, I would like to jettison some of the loud sounding statements your panelist who is there on the studio with yourself has made. They are really loud sounding that reminds me of 2018. Now, he has made statements like Kamto is supporting Amazonians, Kamto is Bas, Kamto is. Now, these are some of the things that distract Cameroonians. When the CPDM is faced with real facts, they run into distractions to keep away the real debates and start talking about people's personalities. In 2018, they came up with the Bamileke aspect instead of facing electoral programs. Here we are in 2025. They have brought up the debate of Kamto's eligibility. Now, I've used two examples here, one in 2014 and the other in 2024. In both cases, it involved CPDM members, elected members, decamping from one party to another, and they remained in their positions until their mandate was over. Now, legally speaking, what does that tell your panelist sitting right beside you? If it's not bad faith, then it's what we call in Cameroon witchcraft. You cannot decide the rules of the game that you want to become a party to that same game. So the idea that Kamto is not going to be a candidate is a sham debate. It should be thrown completely because at the end of the day, Kamto is already a member of a political coalition, which we don't even know how many political parties are in that coalition for now. I think that is even his trump card. Because in Cameroon, there are 40 plus eligible political parties with elected officials who can actually provide candidates for elections. So far as we speak, there is Jean-Michel Nichet's party, the FPC, is it FPC or something? There are other parties in that coalition who can still put up Kamto's candidacy. So this debate of is Kamto going to be a candidate or not should not even come to play. The idea that Kamto aime Pion de la France should not come to play. It is the CPDM gimmicks trying to play us around. I am not a member of the CRM party, but I sympathize with the ideas of Professor Maurice Kamto. Because for now, in the political scene in Cameroon, Kamto is the best devil we can happen to. Going back to a BR regime is going to be a nightmare for Cameroonians for another 7 years. Now, coming back to your question, asking if Maurice Kamto has the legality to unilaterally declare that he is going to free Paul Biya of all his atrocities, which we all know he has committed a lot of them. I would say in politics, there are what we call deals. What Professor Maurice Kamto is doing is appealing to the mind of Paul Biya, whom the CPDM pundits. You mentioned Ali Baba and the 40 thieves. The 40 thieves around him are the ones telling him, don't go to the village. Stay here with us because they know that with him, they can continue looting our coffers. They are encouraging 92 years plus. That age is even an age that we are estimating to stand for another 7 years to run a country as controversial as Cameroon, because they know that if another person takes office, they are all going to be propped. So they are encouraging him to stay there. But the language that Kamto is using, speaking to Bia's conscience, that sit back, grandfather, reflect, live things, and I guarantee you protection based on your age, based on your grandfatherliness, if I should put it that way. I don't think it's a wrong thing to say as a politician, because it is a deal that is striking, although the other party has not come to the deal table yet. Now, there's another signal I want to give to my brother on just beside you. In previous years, when we have had all the motions of support from the CPDM parties from all the subdivisions in Cameroon, before now, Paul Biya would have already come to say, "Je vous ai entendu, je veux être candidat." There is fire in their own house. All is not well in there. Because by now, he should have said something about it. That tells you that things are not going right. Only yesterday in the north, Issa Chiruma, a staunch ally of Paul Biya, talking to his masses in Fufulde, a translated version that I got, was telling them that if I, Chiruma, advise you guys to vote for a system that has put you in this misery, then I am wicked. What does that tell you? That tells you that even his own are throwing him out.
Doc, I mean, to hold you to that fire before I go to Michelle, you can get it both ways. Bobia is cutting deals with Bivondo, which you seem to think that is quite okay now. Issa Chiruma can also just be doing political talk. So you can get it both ways. If this is the game that they are playing, and you are comfortable with that, for Maurice Kamto to say beforehand that he is going to guarantee Bia's and his family that nothing happens to them. I don't know whatever was going to happen to them. These are the deals that we caught in the background, and probably you're mistaken. Michelle here is SDF, really not the CPDM. But as political marriages in Cameroon are concerned, sometimes you don't know what people do in the dark. So it could be Michelle is in bed with the CPDM people in the dark. The chairman did so. But do you really think, as a legal mind, that it is appropriate for a single individual to abrogate to themselves that they have the power to guarantee that nothing happens to their political opponent? We understand, yes, politically, okay, that is fine with what you're saying. But legally, do you think that, is that not coming across, are you saying, l'état c'est moi, like what Biya has done for 43 years?
No, I disagree with you. And I can tell you that legally speaking, those deals exist. They do exist legally speaking. For example, I would say the coup criminel special, the special criminal court that is there in Yaoundé. That is what they do every day. Atangarakuna is free, roaming the streets, going to everywhere he wishes to go. It's because of those kind of deals. Because they say, if you come and return what you stole or part of what you stole, you will be released. And he's been released.
That is the court. It's already in the legal
exactly. So what Kamto is saying is in that line. What Kamto is saying is in that line. He can cut a deal. In America, those deals happen. If they catch a criminal, they say, tell us who are your accomplices, and we are going to reduce your jail term. Those are some of the deals that exist in law. And Cameroon is not.
But when you put out a blanket statement that you can guarantee that. So in as much as we have really, Biya has not been convicted of any crimes, granted, and somebody is already telling them that blanketly I can guarantee you, meaning that the Cameroonian people say it doesn't matter.
No, that's not the way he put it. The way you are saying blanketly.
I am looking as an independent-minded person trying to analyze a lot of what is happening within the Cameroonian political ecosystem. I just want to be sure that if we are holding Biya accountable,
like,
that
like I said,
he
like I
has
said,
single-handedly decided the fate of that country for 43 years, and you having somebody who is already saying, look, listen to the word. You are in the UK. You are not in Mandarin or in France speaking French. Guarantee, meaning that he has that authority. If he's saying that if he's convicted, he can grant him clemency, fine. But you can't just say blankly that I'm going to guarantee that nothing happens to them if I am given the keys to the Unity Palace. Michel, I want to get your views on that.
Ok, mon copanéliste s'est trompé beaucoup sur ma personne. Je n'ai jamais été proche du RDPC et je ne le serai jamais. Je voulais juste faire cette mise au point. Bon, maintenant, les propos de... Oh, apparemment, j'étais coupé. Je rappelle que mon copanéliste a prétendu que j'étais du RDPC. Je n'ai jamais été du RDPC et je ne le serai jamais. Donc, pour revenir à la question, quand M. Kamto dit qu'il va garantir la sécurité de Paul Biya, on sait tout de suite qu'il est lui-même une créature de Paul Biya. Il y a un ministre du même régime qui avait avoué un jour qu'ils ne sont que les créatures du régime. Donc, Kamto lui-même n'est qu'une créature. C'est pourquoi il dit qu'il va protéger son Dieu, celui qui l'a fabriqué. C'est ça le sens de la parole. Si les gens n'ont pas compris ça comme ça, c'est qu'ils ne comprennent pas exactement dans le sens politique de la liaison qu'il y a entre Paul Biya et Kamto. Et vous allez constater que tous les actes que Kamto pose en politique ne favorisent que Paul Biya. Je prends des exemples. Même en 2020, quand il décide de ne pas aller aux élections, le RDPC a fait un score qu'il n'a jamais eu au Cameroun. Tout simplement parce que Kamto avait donné l'opportunité à Biya de faire mieux que ce qu'il faisait avant. C'est ça. Donc, moi, avant que vous ne me coupez, j'étais en train de vous expliquer que tout ce qui se passe là n'est qu'une distraction savamment organisée. Et que derrière les gestes de Kamto, il y a la mainmise des forces étrangères. Et c'est pourquoi il était parti à Paris. Il est conscient qu'il ne sera pas candidat. Sinon, s'il est candidat, les gens du MSC vont le poursuivre. Parce que depuis qu'il est arrivé dans le MSC, il n'a apporté aucun résultat positif. Parce qu'en politique, on regarde les valeurs des partis en termes d'élus. Depuis que Kamto est dans le MSC, ils sont partis d'un député un député et 19 conseillers à 0 aujourd'hui. Ça reste seulement des groupuscules d'agitation pour empêcher que la vraie opposition qui a un projet pour le Cameroun se mette en place. Et je peux vous donner les projets que d'autres partis pensent pour le Cameroun. En l'occurrence, celui du SDF qui est basé sur le fédéralisme. Et vous voyez, quand vous parlez avec les gens du MSC, ils ne sont incapables de vous étaler un programme cohérent et concis et pour chasser le régime Paul Biya. Donc, nous comprenons parfaitement les raisons pour lesquelles Kamto dit qu'il va protéger Biya. Et à un moment où tous les Camerounais ne comprennent pas pourquoi, avec tout le mal que le régime RDPC a fait, et Kamto vient les protéger. Et comme je disais tantôt, quand ce monsieur est allé à Paris, il était protégé par les services français. Et quelques semaines après, le délégué général de la gendarmerie de France est venu au Cameroun aussi, pour dire, mais si vous ne marchez pas comme nous, nous on va prendre Kamto. C'est ce qui se passe. Il y a des mainmises. Et il y a 3 mois avant, son envoyé spécial, Ekanga, était avec les services secrets pour préparer son arrivée. Et il y a quelqu'un qui contestait aussi la liaison qu'il y a entre Kamto et l'Ambazonie. Monsieur Etchou, je vous ai envoyé quelques images à propos. Vous savez, le conseiller spécial de Kamto, c'est Albert Zonga. C'est monsieur qui a déclaré publiquement que c'est eux qui avaient volé la victoire de 92, la victoire de Ni John Fundi. Et c'est le principal conseiller. Et c'est ce même conseiller qui a déclaré à la sortie de prison que ce qu'ils ont gagné dans leur combat, c'est le rapprochement avec Ayoub Tabé qui était en prison. Le représentant il parlait de l'autre Cameroun. Ça dit que le plan de déstabilisation et de division du Cameroun est déjà formaté.
Michel,
yeah.
I think Kamto has publicly stated severally that he is for one and indivisible Cameroon and has not shown any favors. One, like Patrick said, by visiting the two English-speaking regions to show his inclination as to what you're saying, that is in support or has met with the Southern Cameroon leaders in jail while he was also locked up in Kondengi. And you would agree that whether it is the SDF, Ni John Fundi himself, when this crisis started, went to Boya and said he was with the people of Southern Cameroon. So I don't want us to try to hold Kamto to a different standard. Meanwhile, the political leaders are doing the same. He had not shown any extra inclination towards the Ambazonian cause. What he has called for is that they should be released and let the people sit down and have a dialogue, which is what you also calling for federalism is asking that the country has to sit together for this dialogue.
Mais si c'était pour la vocation du dialogue, quand il y a eu le dialogue organisé, il a refusé qu'il ne prend pas part sous prétexte que ces gens étaient en prison. Il avait posé des conditions. Il a dit si on ne libère pas les militants du MSC qui sont en prison, il ne va pas prendre part à ce dialogue. Je crois que vous vous rappelez de ça. Et ce qui a été surprenant, c'est que quand lui-même a déclaré que lui ne sortira pas de prison tant qu'on n'a pas libéré tous ces gens. Dès qu'on lui a donné l'opportunité, il les a abandonnés sur place. Kamto n'a jamais maintenu une position claire dans ce qu'il dit. Il est à Paris, il dit qu'il veut 50 morts pour accéder au pouvoir comme au Sénégal. Arrivé au Cameroun, il dit qu'il veut les élections. Ici aux États-Unis, lors de la rencontre qui était organisée, les Ambazoniens étaient dans la salle. Alors que quand Kamto a vu les micros et les caméras, il a dit il ne les reçoit plus. Ce jour, je vais vous retrouver des vidéos, si on les montre, où les Ambazoniens ont carrément dit que Kamto c'est un fake monsieur qui promet des choses qu'il ne tient pas. Donc c'est pas aujourd'hui qu'on connaît ce personnage. Il est très dangereux pour le Cameroun.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, Michel. Dr. Ayok, I think Michel here is calling into question Kamto's leadership abilities and somehow is trying to connect Kamto to the Southern Cameroon's revolution. And I think he has pointed to his encounter with the leadership of Southern Cameroon, Sisi Kwayuk Tabe, who is still in the Kondengi Principal. But as a leadership expert and a development expert, it is quite proper for us to put Kamto in the right context. In 2018, Akere Muna, the leader of the People's Development Front, said he decided to withdraw his candidacy in order to benefit Maurice Kamto. He stated that I firmly believe that the future of Cameroon is a top priority and it's worth every personal sacrifice. Muna wrote back then on Twitter. Fast forward 2025, Muna is a candidate of the Universe Party, a different political dispensation. Has Kamto's ability to rally and sustain an opposition coalition in doubt? What does this say about his leadership? A lot of the people who are around him, his campaign manager, left. People like he left. The major cadres of the party after 2018, a lot of them are now not actively involved in the MROC. What does this say about his leadership style? Dr. Ayub?
Hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, let me first of all comment on what Marcel said a lot of things. But I think he's doing a disservice to the electability of SDF if he's the candidate he's supporting SDF. Because, as in politics and in leadership, you need to have an ideological convention that covers appeals to your wide audience. And Kamto does not have this conviction. And of course, instead of Marcel taking it to drive with, he still doesn't want to take that advantage and doing a disservice to SDF. A disservice in the sense that, he has already, because if he doesn't want to listen about the Southern Cameroonians, he doesn't want to talk to the leadership, he doesn't want to talk to Ambazonian, it means he has already divided Cameroon. That is what Marcel is saying. Don't go there. They are not one part of us. We don't have anything related to them. It is a taboo to talk to these people. So they are not Cameroonians. They are Ambazonians, and we are Cameroonians. So that's what Marcel indirectly is talking about. Then when we go to the leadership of Kamto losing momentum, when you have a compelling vision, and people feel that there is somebody who can drive them towards that vision. People thought Kamto could be one of those people who could drive them towards that vision. But you are dealing with a violent and repugnant regime with strong missionaries. Biya has been in power and in government for about 63 years. The whole system is around him. He knows how to destroy people. They know how to manipulate. They know how to get into you and break you apart. That is what has happened with Kamto, and Kamto not being strong enough to deal with that risk is costing him a lot. If Kamto wanted to have a wider audience and appeal to so many people and to balance his ideological conviction through pragmatism, he would have been a better candidate. He would have been the front runner, meaning that the pragmatic approach, actually going to Southern Cameroonians, actually seeing the leaders in detention more, actually articulating the real problems about Cameroon and about the Cameroons, and actually seeing that coming out with a clear line of which he is going to solve the problem if he becomes president. But he's saying Cameroon can never be divided. It's only one Cameroon. There's nothing we can listen to. We're not going to talk to these people. So the same with SDF. But the only person that I think, if Marcel is still talking about Kamto being close to Ambazonia, I think SDF is closer, because the last time I checked, SDF members were in Tico. That was 2 days ago or so. They were in Tico trying to revive SDF. So that is the Ambazonian territory. That is so scared to talk about. So again, Kamto needs to show a different level of leadership. The leadership maybe that people are frustrated with is inability to drive the masses, to build a momentum, to ensure that there is, Cameroon doesn't need little change, incremental change. Cameroon needs radical or change, that a disruptive change. And you can build that through underground movement, through the masses, through the civil society. Kamto has failed to galvanize this collaboration and build a resolute network that can bring real change. Cameroon is a system that needs consistency, that needs, the people have to be robust, and resolute. It has not happened with Kamto. You see him disappearing after being hit down by the violent regime, after being suppressed and repressed. He will go quiet, he will go low. They need something. I think that the members of MRC want to see a Kamto that will galvanize people, will build robust network, will bring the civil society movement together. And Nelson talked about a coalition coming together that can guarantee Kamto's candidacy. The last time I checked, I think there was a publication for the Center for Strategy. It shows that there were 30 political parties that came together to form that coalition. But the Cameroon government considered that coalition illegal, illegitimate, and clandestine. So how do you reconcile that? It tells you that Kamto is naked. So we're just he's doing the normal political
But
showmanship.
Doc, to hold you to that point, wouldn't that just go to confirm the front-runner status of Kamto? If at every obstacle the government is trying to put multiple obstacles on his path, by not only labeling his coalition or the coalition of the opposition as illegitimate and illegal, bearing in mind that the CPDM itself is a coalition of all these mushroom parties.
Bring real change. There is no need for incremental change. The incremental change we have by people fighting for another university apart from Yawande University, and they gave Weah University and they gave other university. The GCE board and other things, political party. But today, Cameroon is a democracy without opposition, which means it's an autocracy. There is a democracy without opposition. There is no real opposition in Cameroon. What we have today, we see aid seekers and those that are scrambling for resources, masquerading as political parties. They are not political parties. They have been subjugated, they have been subdued by the violent system and repugnant regime. So what they need to do, the Cameroon is not about coming together to talk about that coalition. It is about forming a front that can build the grassroots, the civil society, and the underground movement to robustly carry out a disruptive change or a radical change in Cameroon. And when that change comes, it means there will be change in institutions, there will change in the political system, there will be change in a lot of things, the judiciary, and even the way the media is treated. Because today, even you look at the media, it now goes back to the fact that Kamto is not a front runner, and there is no front runner in Cameroon. I've named some of the characteristics of a front runner. Who is a real front runner when you want to look at in world politics, in governance? A real front runner must have a media influence. A real front runner must have a fundraising regime, strong fundraising regime. A real front runner must have an ideological platform that represents a wide range of people. There should be momentum to be a real front runner. There should be a
Doc, not to belabor the point. Not to belabor the point, it is hard for you to argue that Kamto, that is not from, I think, looking at a lot of the mainstream media in Cameroon and the way the government is acting to frustrate every action of Kamto. There is no other political opposition in Cameroon that the government has gone after their leader more than what they have done to Kamto. Is that sending the message that Kamto is actually a front runner?
He is a front runner. In a system where the incumbent has everything, it means he's himself a front runner. He decides, he controls. The most important thing is to seize control from the incumbent into the hands of the people. To seize control, make the people in charge, make the people have ownership. That is real leadership, influencing the people to have ownership of the vision that you have as Kamto. That has not happened. That has not happened. So when you look at this,
we're gonna move because of time. We're gonna move. Dr. Nelson, coming back to you, looking at, if I may be quite right, we pretty much of the same generation. I think most of us getting into the early 50s or the mid 40s, and recently there's a wave of African renaissance that has gripped the continent with calls for a new generation of young leaders to replace the old generation to enable the continent chart a new path forward, away from its colonial entanglements. Some are now accusing Kamto as a vessel for the continued influence and French control of Cameroon. I
Yes.
could hear Michel referencing that during his intervention. Is Kamto's age, given that he's 71 years old, Akere is 72 years old, Bivondo himself is 93 years old. I
94.
hear my Gary Buba Bello has also declared his
Yes.
candidacy. He is almost 80 or 80 something years old. I'm waiting for Kavae and Nyat to declare their candidacy. Do you really think, or are you comfortable that we still have this old gerontocrats still at the helm of the political life of that country? What is happening to the younger generation, the 45 or the 50s, and even close to 60-year-old Cameroonians? Look at what is happening in Senegal. Somebody like you, like Diomansi, is at the helm of the supreme magistracy in that country. Burkina Faso, irrespective of the hype, is still somebody within the younger generation coming back to us. We are trying to run away from a 92-year-old or 93-year-old gerontocracy to somebody within that same generation. How do you reconcile that? And I think you can,
Okay.
if you wish, you can respond to the intervention of both Patrick and Michelle.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's that.
Thank you once again. Thank you once again. And I want to thank Dr. Patrick for the points that he has raised. So to come to what you just said regarding Camto's French influence, or maybe the influence of France over Maurice Kamto, I would say Cameroon is a semi-authoritarian regime. Why do I say this? A semi-authoritarian regime because it demonstrates features of democracy with multi-party system, seemingly freedom of speech, which is embedded in the constitution, and it demonstrates features of dictatorship or authoritarianism. So a system of that nature falls in between authoritarianism and democracy. That makes it a semi-authoritarian regime. Cameroon says it is democratic, but it does not allow political parties to do politics in the field of Cameroon. That is why Maurice Kamto runs away to come to France. The CPDM themselves say it once they have the opportunity. Qu'il vienne faire ça au Cameroon. The MRC party was launched in 2012. From 2012 till 2025, there has been a systematic denial of public protest or public meeting organization for this party. The evidence is clear for everyone to see. That is why I differ seriously with Marcel when he claims that Maurice Kamto is le impion de la France, as they put it. It is because the country of his own country does not give him the place to do politics. Take, for example, a political party leader which is insignificant, as you claim, announces that he is coming back home from his Paris tour where he did not rally up to 10,000 people, as you claim. You make it breaking news. You summon an entire region's security arsenal to lock down a whole city because of one person you claim is insignificant. Make that make sense to me. It doesn't sound right. Now, the more Marcel speaks, I am shocked to find out from Dr. Patrick that he is more inclined to SDF. Because the more he speaks, the more he comes across to me as a staunch CPDM pundit. He uses their lines so well. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. French is not my first language, but I think I understood Professor Maurice Kamto's speech in France better than Marcel did. Or he is deliberately thwarting that speech to feed the whims and caprices of his CPDM friends. Kamto, talking about 50 deaths in Senegal, said this, and I will paraphrase. Les gens parlent même du Sénégal. Les gens disent même que nous prenons la leçon du Sénégal. Mais vous regardez seulement maintenant. Vous ne regardez pas, ils ont commencé à lutter depuis 2 ans. Et il y a même eu 50 morts. To paraphrase him, that is what Kamto said. How does that translate to Kamto wanting a genocide in Cameroon, for God's sake?
Well, that's political talk.
Now, if a country claims that it is a democratic nation, how does Kamto calling for youths to go on the streets and protest for their rights translate into army and police shooting these people and killing them to warrant up to 50 deaths? How does that happen in a country that is democratic? How does that happen in a country that supports freedom of speech and freedom of liberties? People will protest and go back home just like they did in Douala a couple of days ago. We didn't have anybody injured. On the contrary,
we have a few more minutes.
A policeman collapsed, and we saw Kamto militants giving them water to drink. So I think the idea that Maurice Kamto is a demon, that Paul Biya is not, is a complete fallacy that must be thrown to the pits of hell where it belongs. Let's advocate for change in our country, like a bishop said sometime in the northern regions. Pour le moment, même si c'est le diable, on prend. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I think, again, we cannot just summarily dismiss the idea that because of the political suffocation in Cameroon, political parties cannot hold their political events in Cameroon. Do not forget that it was Macron who pressured the Yaoundé junta to release Kamto. And then upon all the places, the only place that Kamto goes in and mobilize a huge turnout, that state security was provided for him to hold that rally is in France. I mean, in as much as his political maneuvers, we cannot rule that there is some hidden hand in France would come to. Michel, again, his name is Michel, not Marcel. How do you respond to what Dr. Nelson is saying?
Sorry, Michel.
Bon, d'abord, je voudrais lever une équivoque parce que quelqu'un disait là que le SDF était dans la zone du territoire ambazonien. Il n'y a pas de territoire ambazonien au Cameroun. Il y a le Cameroun et le SDF est en train de faire sa campagne. Bon, maintenant, on vous parlez de l'âge. Pour moi, personnellement, l'âge n'est pas un problème. On a des pays, parlons des États-Unis où nous sommes ici. Le président qu'on vient d'élire là-bas, il a un âge quand même assez avancé. Ouais, donc maintenant, pour revenir à la marche de Kamto au Cameroun quand il a annoncé son retour. Tout le monde sait que la France protège Kamto. Vous voyez, il faut qu'on se dise les vérités. Nous sommes en train de quitter de la globalisation, mondialisation pour aller dans une forme de multipolarité. Ce qui fait que chaque pays aspire à plus de souveraineté. Venez en France aujourd'hui faire des meetings sur une place comme la place de la République, qui est une place forte, un symbole de la France, montre carrément qu'on est protégé par la France. Déjà, Macron a déjà intervenu plusieurs fois en faveur de Kamto. Et vous-même, vous savez très bien que si les Français ne sont pas avec vous, ils ne vous donnent pas une telle opportunité de vous exprimer. Et vous avez dû le constater que quand les membres du gouvernement vont en France, ils sont lapidés avec le silence complice de la France. Nos artistes, quand ils vont là-bas, on les empêche de prester. Et même s'ils portent plainte n'importe comment, il n'y aura rien comme intervention. Tout simplement parce que le mouvement qui protège Kamto là-bas est soutenu par la France. La France cherche un pion au moment où, en Afrique, en ce moment, le sentiment anti-français est en train de fuir. Il est en train de fuir et c'est pourquoi ils se disent à l'approche des élections, quel est le pion que nous pouvons placer là-bas pour que les accords de défense qui ont été, les accords coloniaux qui ont été boycottés par le régime. Pour dire vrai, comme en 2019, Paul Biya a refusé de renouveler les accords coloniaux que Kamto dit qu'il ne connaît pas. La France cherche un pion pour le remplacer pour qu'on renouvelle ces accords coloniaux. Ça, on le sait très bien. Donc, ces attitudes sont d'humeur à montrer que lui, il est le produit désigné de la France pour nous conduire dans la colonisation qu'on a subie déjà plus de 70 ans. Le docteur disait tout à l'heure là que pourquoi quand Kamto dit qu'il vient, on mobilise toutes les forces pour l'empêcher de... Non, ça c'est faux. Il y a un régime de déclaration au Cameroun. Ce n'est pas une demande, c'est une déclaration. C'est-à-dire quoi? Kamto ou alors ces gens ont dit que quand il va revenir, ils vont tenir une réunion politique dans leur siège. Mais une réunion politique, ça se fait dans une salle. Quand vous transformez la réunion politique en meeting, sans avertir les autorités de la place, si au cours de ce meeting, il y a quelque chose qui ne va pas, à qui viendra la faute? Parce que autant que vous soutenez votre Kamto, sachez aussi qu'il y a des Camerounais qui sont déterminés à lui faire du mal à cause du climat social qui est tendu au pays. Donc, il faut parfois respecter les règles comme établies quand les autorités en place mettent leur système. Puisque demain, si vous arrivez au pouvoir et que les gens ne respectent pas vos décisions, il y aura de l'anarchie. C'est pourquoi moi je disais que Kamto est à la tête d'une organisation anarchiste, anticonformiste, avec les ambitions uniquement de terrorisme. Puisque il boycotte tout. Les lois qui sont à l'Assemblée nationale et tout, lui-même en tant que membre du gouvernement, les a soutenus. Quand il était dans le régime de Paul Biya, en 2008, il y a eu des massacres. Il était ministre délégué, il n'a rien dit. Donc, ce n'est pas ce qui se passe là aujourd'hui qui nous inquiète. On connaît l'homme, le personnage. C'est le pion de la France en préparation. On sait.
Thank you, Michel. I think I really want to thank all of you. We are driving close to the end, given time constraints. But before we wrap up, the country, this question is to all of you, the panelists. I would start with Dr. Patrick, and then Dr. Nelson and Michel here in the studio with me. Cameroon is also going through this separatist insurgency with the people of southern Cameroon demanding independence for Cameroon's two English-speaking regions, which are home to 20% of the population. Has Kamto done enough to encourage or convince the people from these two regions to trust in him? Should he publicly call upon Macron to pressure the junta to release the Southern Cameroon's leaders because his manifesto is bringing Cameroon together and building as one nation. Has he done enough to convince the people in this region? Has he actively gotten himself in a position to strongly appeal to them? One, he has not visited it. Has he put together a global coalition to force or to compel the government to the negotiating table to resolve this crisis? Patrick.
To talk about doing enough. So if you look at, that's why when I listen to my brother Michel, I try to, I don't really know what he's talking about with Kamto, with Ambazonia, and so on. So he has not done enough. First, he doesn't have a clear political platform or policy platform that he talks about the Ambazonian people, the solution to the problem. He has not done that, and that's why even Cameroon itself, the problem that Cameroon is facing, it is not only about the Ambazonian crisis. The far north is there, and many parts of Cameroon being disunited. Even the CPDM itself, that we think is a strong force, is fragmented. No matter the machinery that they have, is seriously fragmented. So none of these have actually come out with, beside Kamto, even SDF has not come out with a policy that is going to solve the Southern Cameroon question. CPDM has not done that. Kamto would have seized that opportunity to actually articulate, not only acting as a talk shop, but bringing out concrete measures and walking the talk. And the first challenge would have been, or the first proof or evidence of actually showing that he will live or will walk the talk when he becomes the president, would have been to visit Southern Cameroons, to talk to the people, would have been to talk to galvanize solidarity, international solidarity, to stop the genocide that is happening in Southern Cameroon. I hear of Michel being afraid of Kamto galvanizing for a genocide in Cameroon, but he has forgotten that about 15,000 people also have died in Southern Cameroon because of the regime's high-handedness. He has forgotten that there are so many refugees that have left Southern Cameroon to Nigeria and other parts of the world. He has forgotten that there are so many IDPs. The last time I checked, Southern Cameroonians, IDPs in French Cameroon were beaten, their properties were destroyed, and so on. A lot has to be done. He has to pronounce that leaders should be released and they should be a negotiated settlement. There should be a peace, sustainable peace must take place. There should be a solution towards sustainable peace. And of course, we cannot have sustainable peace without justice. And the only justice that has to take its course is for people to start articulating the problem without fear no favor. Have the confidence to use it as part of the political manifesto or the political policy. That is what, and so far, Kamto, CPDM, or Paul Biya, SDF, or she has not done that. None of them have had the guts to do that.
Thank you, Doc. Dr. Nelson.
Well, I think I partly agree with Dr. Patrick's view on the political situation in Cameroon and the Ambazonian crisis, if I could call it that way. Because recently, the Norwegian Refugee Council has classed the conflict in southern Cameroon as one of the most neglected conflicts in the world, with thousands of refugees and internally displaced people. So any politician who wishes to govern Cameroon in future has to take the problem of southern Cameroons to their chest and make sure that they face it heads on. So if I were to advise Professor Maurice Kamto as a political a party leader running for the presidency of the Republic of Cameroon, I would say the idea that he has not been to the southern Cameroons is not very good for his political career going forward. So he should summon courage and try to go, maybe start his campaign from there if the semi-authoritarian regime allows him to be candidate for the election, and give the southern Cameroonians more guarantees that he has the yam and the knife to resolve the conflict in such a way that will play down the sufferings of the Anglophone masses. That is my view for now, as far as that is concerned.
Thank you, Doc. I wish they could make good use of that free political consultancy for them to make good in
Yeah.
genuinely engaging in a dialogue to look for ways to resolve the ongoing crisis. Michel, what to say?
Oui, moi je pense que il est vraiment indécent même de penser que quelqu'un qui n'a pas une position cohérente dans ses propos, qui est incapable de donner une quelconque garantie à qui que ce soit, puisque c'est un monsieur qui a brillé par son incapacité à tenir une position claire dans tout ce qu'il dit. On est sûr que ses propos sont changeants au plus tard dans 48 heures. Donc, le SDF dit et répète à qui veut l'entendre, la solution, c'est le fédéralisme. Tant que vous n'acceptez pas le fédéralisme, nous serons toujours dans les problèmes. Que ce soit les problèmes de des crises du Nord, tant que les régions ne s'approprient pas le pouvoir pour décider d'elles-mêmes ce qu'ils voudront faire de leur région, nous serons toujours dans les turbulences. Je crois que chaque Camerounais aujourd'hui sait que miser sur Kamto, c'est presque choisir la crise sociale, parce que d'autres phénomènes apparaissent aujourd'hui comme l'ethnofascisme, où on dit c'est le parti des Bamileke, aujourd'hui c'est le parti de tel, ainsi de suite, la casse de nos ambassades qui s'ensuit avec tous ceux qui le soutiennent. Donc nous disons clairement que vraiment Kamto n'est pas une solution et ne peut rien apporter au Cameroun. Merci.
Thank you, Michelle. And on that note, we have come to the end of the program today. Thank you to our viewers. For the past couple of weeks, we've been off the air because of other engagements. I think this is political season, and the opinions that have been rendered here today belongs to each of the panelists and not the editorial policy of Media to Africa. But as people who are involved in all of these communities, it is imperative that we honestly and sincerely engage in these issues to look for solutions into the problems plaguing our communities, particularly for those of us who are out of the country and looking back into the dire circumstances in the country. The crisis needs to be resolved one way or the other. It is also unacceptable that we would have a 93-year-old leader who has been in office for 43 years and had practically run down the country into the ditch to continue to run. But I think the country would have to decide based on the vision that will be presented by each of these candidates that is aspiring to the highest office in the land. And I personally do believe that in as much as we would disagree, we all agree that we want a better community with livable conditions for our people, whether those who clamor for a separate southern Cameroon or those who clamor for one and indivisible Cameroon. I think the driving desire is to better the living conditions of our people. We will continue to do this. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Dr. Nelson and Dr. Yoke from the UK. I would hope that you would come again. These conversations are going to really be intense in the coming days. We look forward to making sure that the people are having the best from us based on our analysis and taking into consideration the changing dynamics, not only in the country, in the region, and globally. You see situations in the Middle East the situation here in the U.S. with the uncertainty as far as migration is concerned, we have to make sure that we are up to speed as far as some of these daily occurrences are concerned. So thank you to our audience and good night. I'll see you next weekend. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.